Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
All right, good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday, June 4, 2019 City Council meeting. Clerk, we'll go ahead and get started and read our roll, please.
Councilmember Sale.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Staley.
Here.
Brecky.
Here.
Erickson. Kylie.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
All right, tonight we have the honor of having Reverend Jonathan Langerack with Heritage Protestant Reformed Church with us. He's going to be giving our invocation. So would you please rise for that and then stay standing to say the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read tonight from chapter 2 of Paul's first letter to Timothy, the first 8 verses of chapter 2 of 1 Timothy. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. This is good, and it is pleasing in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. For there is one God, and there is one mediator between God and men, the man, Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all, which is the testimony given at the proper time. For this I was appointed a preacher and an apostle. I am telling the truth, I am not lying, a teacher of the Gentiles in faith and truth. Let's go to God in prayer. Almighty God and Father in heaven, the hearts of all men and of all rulers are in thy hand. I pray, direct and govern the hearts of all who are in positions of government in our country. At this opening of this city council meeting for the city of Sioux Falls, I pray for the people in this room, for our mayor and the councilors of our city. I'm thankful for their service to the people of our city. I pray they'll have grace and wisdom and everything else they need. I pray the decisions they make and actions they take at this meeting may be to thy glory and for the godly peace of our city. I pray that they'll live so that we may live a peaceful and quiet life that is godly and dignified in every way. I pray they'll remember, as we all must, that we have a master and judge in heaven. Forgive us our sins. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to item 4, which is our consent agenda approval. I'll ask if there's any changes or motions on that.
Move to approve.
Second,
All
Selberg.
right, move to approve by Kylie and seconded by Selberg. Any discussion, council? All right, we'll take a vote on that, please.
Councilmember Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
All right, that's passed 7-0. Move on to the approval of our regular agenda and look for any a motion on that, please.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, motion approved by Selberg and seconded by Sale. Any discussion on that, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Brecky.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
All right, that is passed 7-0. We're at the general public input portion of our agenda tonight. As a reminder, input during this portion will last no more than 3 minutes per person, and in total lasts no more than 30 minutes. During general public input, the public is welcome to speak on any topic that does not appear later on in the agenda. For regular agenda items following general public input, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. For all regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. At this time, I'd like to invite members of the public forward for general public input. And clerk, please note our time is 7:06. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, city councilors, for the opportunity to address you. My wife and I had actually planned this morning.
State your name, sir.
Sorry, Matt Rooney, and this is my wife, Jessica. We had actually set out this morning to discuss a little bit different tone to our message, but we are very pleased to announce to this body today that we were able to come up with an amicable solution in regards to how we are able to operate our mobile food restaurant, that we have actually taken a 20-foot shipping container, converting it into a mobile restaurant. It's definitely something new and unique in Sioux Falls. And so because of that, there was, maybe some misunderstandings as to how that would be treated versus, a food truck or rather a temporary structure. We have come to an agreement with department heads from building services, zoning, as well as the health department. And I just have to say, I am very pleased and very thankful to Councilor Staley for being an advocate for us, giving us a voice, as well as members of the media. Also, Jody Schwan from Sioux Falls Business, giving us a voice to where we felt that maybe we didn't have one. So we are definitely going to be moving forward with rapid pace to complete all of our permits. Sorry, a little nervous here, but we intend to open up our restaurant to the public this coming Saturday, pending all completion of inspections and all of the other things that we need to do to get it ready. So we believe that the shipping container concept is going to be something that hopefully will be revolutionary within small business in Sioux Falls. There are many different uses for these. I've heard of bars being made out of them, CrossFit gyms, restaurants, even a restaurant such as Chick-fil-A was made out of some of these containers. So I think it's a concept that if we could take this and run with it in this city, it could truly open up a lot of doors to folks that otherwise might not have the ability to do so. That's all I had to say, and
Thanks,
I really
Matt.
appreciate the time.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jessica. Glad we got to yes on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. My name is Quinn Kaitner, and I'm the president of Sioux Falls Pride, and it's my extreme pleasure to be here today representing Sioux Falls Pride. I come with some really good news. On June 15th, we're having our festival, and to this day, we are more excited to host than any other festivals before, and that's because we're having our first ever Pride Parade. And so we also come with some additional great news. Today, American Express, an article that they wrote for a worldwide publication on their website, announced Sioux Falls as number 11 in the destinations in the world. Not the country, but the world. And part of the reason is because we've been growing and fostering our relationship for our LGBTQA+ community for years. And finally, the hard work has been paying off to a magnitude that we're getting recognition. Why is this important for Sioux Falls? It's fostering growth. It's opening up inclusion for people to move into our city and see that we offer these services and this community support. Festivals historically generate revenue as well. So we're now bringing revenue in as an added bonus in addition to supporting our LGBTQA community. And we'd like to extend an invite for everybody to attend. It's great to foster growth and inclusion within our community, and your presence would only foster that as well. And Mr. Mayor, I invite you to attend as well. And if your schedule doesn't allow that, we totally understand. But thank you for considering our request. And June 15th is Sioux Falls Pride. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Quinn. Good evening.
Dwayne Skipper. How would it be to manage a business with a monopoly revenue source that can be increased at any rate to meet any expansion plans so desired, and then have so much extra revenue that the business has an investment account with earnings approaching $255,000 for each of the last 3 years? With short-term rates at 2%, I estimate it would require an average $13 million balance. The Sioux Falls Wastewater Department is an example of such business. This department collected an average of $30.7 million in user fee income for each of the last 3 years. Is it fair and equitable to have a cushion of about 40% of annual revenues on hand funded by the pocketbooks of city residents? Keep in mind that this example represents just 1/2 of your Sioux Falls utility bill for water services. The other half of the bill for tap water has very similar amounts collected. However, there is no line item breakout for investment earnings in their annual budgets. Maybe an independent, experienced city auditor would investigate such differences automatically. As it stands now, I would suggest the City Council may have to lead the newly hired city employee insider by the hand to get the information they need. With a 2019 $100 million budget and profit margins increasing from 30% to 65%, every detail of the monies handled and how they are spent is worthy of review. If the City Council and Audit Manager don't recognize this responsibility, who will look out for city residents? As a reminder, this comes after the city has tripled water and sewer rates over 13 years. How much will water bills increase with $260 million of loans over the next 5 years? In 20 years, financing. Sioux Falls could be the national leader for the most consecutive years of water billing increases, and what will your water bill be at the end of those 33 years? Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Christopher the Living Man here, 701 South Duluth. I've been here for several weeks talking about the dangers of 5G and the installation of it in this city. I had a little bit of a different presentation ready for tonight, but that got waylaid by a rule that I didn't know about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and verbalize it. Several weeks ago, there was an article out in the Argus where the federal government stated, and I quote, "We don't care about your environmental concerns or your health concerns. We're going to put this into your city anyway. And don't stand in the way of 5G. Now, I'm sorry, but it's unconstitutional, in my opinion, to force upon the people something that they don't want or something that they question as to whether the safety is right or not. Also quoted in that document was or in that article was a statement that the FCC has stated that 5G towers are perfectly safe. I'm going to tell you about another instance in our history, in our recent history, where another branch of government told us that something was perfectly safe, and it ended up killing millions of people around the world. And that was that the Bayer Corporation put out on the shelves a medicine that contained the AIDS virus. And the FDA approved it, said it was perfectly safe, and that we could all trust this medicine. And when people started dying all in the United States, they then looked the other way and allowed them to take it off our shelves and then dump it in Spain, Japan, Africa, and other places in order to turn a disaster into a profit. A lot of people do not realize that the AIDS virus came from the Bayer Corporation. The Bayer Corporation, by the way, completely funded the Nazis. And when the World War II was over, we hired 30,000 Nazis in our country, Nazi war criminals, and put them to work in our country. Our government greatly admired the Nazis. Folks, government is all about corporate interest. And when corporate interest interferes with government, then we've got a problem. The FCC is supposed to regulate what goes on with the telecoms, but it's controlled by the telecoms. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Stephen Ciano. The man who you claim, the Rabbi Jesus, who you claim is God, spoke some great words, as I've spoken here before, like you can't serve two masters. The man just before me has just spoken about how you are serving the interests of big business as opposed to the people that you claim to be serving. So you are being disingenuous in that if you do not give us transparency, let us know just what is going on to protect us from potential dangers, even if you're not sure. I don't want to hear you don't believe something. No, allow the people to know. That is our right. Consent of the governed. Ever hear that one? I see that you open up with a couple prayers, and last time you met, there was your preacher who actually said that the Pledge of Allegiance constitutes a prayer. You can check the videotape. That's what I heard. And that's what I've been saying for years. Now, I've been down on religion for many years since I realized how people that cited religion did many evil things. And I decided, when I was told, well, first you're supposed to do no wrong, and then you're supposed to confess to someone else what you did wrong, I said, how about I just do the first? And I, being the way that I am, I did that. And I continue to do good. And I present to you, as Jesus did, the truth. If you read his words, there's many good words written, particularly in the first books of Matthew in the Bible, as well as in the book of Thomas, which, when they created Christianity in the 4th century, or what we call Christianity now, was deleted. Those things that supported what Jesus was killed for were not allowed because, as was said, the emperor wanted to consolidate power. Now, this is politics as usual. And I see this, you actually worship oil and money and not your fellow person. How about you turn around, take a good look inside, as Jesus said, and love your fellow person and show it. You'll be known by your fruits, and faith without works is dead.
Thank you. Good evening.
Greetings.
Started.
Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and I've got kind of a watery theme going, so it fits the shirt too. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the bike trail and how it floods. So, in the spring, you know, the snow melts and rivers get high, and our bike trail is near rivers, well, one river, so it floods here and there, various locations. And it happens pretty much every spring, because every spring we get a lot of snow and it melts. I've got some few example photographs that I took quite recently. Here's the bridge under Falls Park, and it's pretty hard to pedal through there. It's a little too much water. Here's the bike trail near Barney's where it looks like it's turning into a boat ramp. Definitely too much water to pedal there. And here's a rather pleasing picture. You can see that there's enough water to obscure the trail, but people can pedal through there. You can see all the tire marks, and definitely high water. Now, if you're into science, you've read about global warming, and you've noticed that science says that we have an increased severity of extreme weather due to global warming. And we have increased chance of extreme weather. So as a result, exceptional flooding is more normal than it would otherwise be. A definite problem. So I've looked at all of these considerations and made some reasonable recommendations. And what we should do is pick up the lowest parts of the bike trail so that it's more useful more often. And there's a few spots along the bike trail where curb cuts and access paths would be beneficial. And here's a picture near Falls Park where you can see that there's a lot of traffic, a lot of bicycle marks, and a cutout and a little path through that would be helpful. And that's all I have for tonight, so I'll bid you all a good evening.
Thank you, David.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm John Mathias from Sioux Falls. Public input tonight has been pretty civil. I personally think it's unfortunate that at times some people that give public input exhibit some frustration and might even speak spitefully. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't think it necessarily serves the best interests of a speaker. I tend to ascribe to you attract more bees with honey than vinegar, so I try to make my remarks when I give them as diplomatic and informed as possible. But that being said, while I don't condone an angry tone, I understand it. When people feel slighted or treated dismissively, it does create an offense and results in perhaps some anger exhibited. Now, toward that, on that subject, last month, the city released survey results from the 2019 National City Survey. And in response to the question, what can city government do to improve Sioux Falls? Out of 13 categories, the #1 response by over a third of the respondents was that they prioritized roads, parking, public transportation, traffic, and snow removal. The remarks under roads and public transportation were frequently that people wanted better roads, to be proactive on street repair, continue to improve streets with potholes, fill potholes, they're out of control, fix existing roads, improve city street maintenance. Street maintenance could be improved. Street maintenance done with the correct formula of impure materials. It seems to me that we need to walk before we run. It's noteworthy that none of the respondents to this survey mentioned that they felt there was the need for a new $2 million office for the Department of Information and Technology, or that there be a 75% increase from the tax revenues for the CityLink channel. The road maintenance is not intellectually stimulating. It's not high-tech. It's not as noteworthy as public structures or praiseworthy as landing a major sporting event. However, well-maintained roads are a high priority for citizens and makes an extremely favorable impression on visitors. So I would encourage the city to listen to the way the people have spoken in response to this citizen survey and place a higher priority on road repair. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Tim Stanger. Only thing that I'm going to say is you can shut the door on me all you want. You can go and cry to the you can go cry to anybody you want in this building. You're not gonna stop me from coming down here and speaking. Last week, what happened at this city council meeting was a travesty. It was a setup deal. People watching this could see what was going on. When it came down to voting for people, for the chair and the vice chair and the fourth chair, everybody could see what was gonna happen. Everybody could see how they were gonna vote. It was all done before they even got here. Until this city council stops doing what they're doing, they come in here with an open mind and doesn't sit here and make faces when they're talking about somebody and make comments on when people are talking. You're never going to get respect from the public. And I will not give you the respect because you can't even give yourselves respect. I sat and watched two people last week smile, giggle, hold their head down, shake their heads when one person was being talked about in this city council. Pat, it was when they were talking about you. You're a colleague, but see, you don't fit in. See, what we have here is we have 4 rubber stampers, and yes, I will call you rubber stampers. Everybody I talk to outside this room, I call you rubber stampers, and I'll call you out by names to every single one, every person outside of here, because it doesn't bother me. But the problem is, we needed a puppet last week. Pat, you're not a puppet. They got their puppet.
Good evening.
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. I want to say this for pride, and I want to say this to everybody. I don't care what organizations think about the mayor. If they would have these festivals the weekend before Father's Day or the weekend after Father's Day, I think the mayor would do a proclamation or attend. As far as I met the mayor in his office behind closed doors, never did I feel like he was transphobia, homophobia, biphobia. Absolutely not. Youth administration, Mr. Youther, yes, absolutely. Was he a fake? Absolutely. Was he for the transgender community and for the LGBT community? Absolutely not. If these festivals, like I said, was before Father's Day or after Father's Day, will the mayor attend? I would say yes. I can't speak for the mayor, but I'm sure he would attend the Peach Festival and the Gay Pride Festival here and the Juneteenth and everything else that's happening in the city here. Last week, when Teresa Staley here was trying to talk about Pat's story here. And so we have, where's the thing? So if you see here, holding up the heads and then making faces and laughing and everything else. And everybody has their rights about the park and rep and how they did with the park and rep. And everybody has their issue on voting for the city center, okay? Everybody had their issues on it. And I'm not saying Teresa's right or wrong. But let me tell you this. When you're laughing at the park and ramp, look where we're at today with the park and ramp. The park and ramp, because the administration decided to sit there with developers and people, and now we're at a standstill with the park and ramp. Look at the city center. What happened to the city center? $800,000, right? For the chilling system, I think it was, $800,000 for that. So when we're laughing, are we laughing because we screwed the taxpayers out of all of this stuff here? Because this is what's gonna happen with the city center and the parking ramp eventually. So when people are laughing out here on Teresa Staley and other people with their comments, You gotta watch what you say, because a lot of people was against this parking ramp and a lot of people was against this city center here. Wasn't Tim Haken's doing here, this was some of your council members and youth administration, so I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening for public input? Come forward, ma'am. Good evening.
My name is Tylin Clune, and I just want to say that I am, well, first of all, good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
I want to say thank you. I am grateful for your community commitment and your service to our community. It takes a lot of strength and courage every day to serve the public, so thank you for taking on the roles that you do.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. Anyone else this evening? All right, clerk, next item, please.
Item 26, new 2019-20 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license for Maple Tree Incorporated Golden Coin Casino, 4110 West Maple Mall, Suite 104, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 27, request to include video lottery terminals with the new 2019-20 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license for Maple Tree Incorporated Golden Coin Casino, 4110 West Maple Mall, Suite 104, cup not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 28, new 2019-20 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license for Maple Tree Incorporated Golden Coin Casino, 4110 West Maple Mall, Suite 105, cup not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 29, request to include video lottery terminals with the new 2019-20 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license for Maple Tree Incorporated Golden Coin Casino, 4110 West Maple Mall, Suite 105, cup not required, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 30, special one-day malt beverage license for Sioux Falls Pride to be operated at Terrace Park, 1100 West 4th Street for a special event on June 15, 2019. Item 31, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Catering America to be operated at Poet, 4615 North Lewis Avenue for a social on June 18, 2019. Item 32, special one-day liquor license for T-Slat Incorporated, JJ's Wine, Spirits, and Cigars to be operated at TSP 1112 Northwest Avenue for a chamber mixer on July 9th, 2019. Item 33, special one-day liquor license for TNT Entertainment to be operated at 8th and Railroad East Parking Lot, 401 East 8th Street for a class reunion on July 27th, 2019. Item 34, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Sioux Falls Sister Cities to be operated at Avera IT Parking Lot, 212 East 11th Street for German Fest on September 7th, 2019. Item 35, various retail malt beverage renewals for 2019-20 to be operated at various locations in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, identified as Exhibit E.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'm here to answer any questions you may have on items 26 through 35. And I do want to add item 35 is the Exhibit E, which is the businesses that have experienced underage fail in this last renewal period. I'm happy to report there is only one, but the gentleman is here and present. His name is Art French, and he's here to answer any questions if you have them for him. So there's another applicant here, items 26 through 29, the applicant is here as well, so.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on any of these items tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Jamie on these items? Councilor Neitzer?
Well, typically as tradition, we would ask the person who had the failure to come up and just explain what happened and what they're going to do going forward to address the situation. So if we could have the representative from that entity.
Okay, you bet. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Art French, and I'm the new manager of Love's Travel Stop, which is where the incident happened. I was not there or aware of when this transpired, but I do know that anyone that was involved in that is no longer employed by Love's. And we have put in place things, policies and procedures to prevent this from happening again. Just for an example, the POS, the point of sale systems, will not let you sell to age-restricted products to anybody without either a driver's license or a date of birth. And we're following policies strictly under new management, and it will not happen again.
Thanks, Art. You guys have any questions for Art on that,
I
Councilor
do,
Starr?
Mr. Mayor. Take me through the whole policies and procedures. How you handle alcohol, what's the process is. Usually that's included with our packet. I didn't look. Do we have the whole plan of how you handle alcohol sales? Not just a highlight, because we normally like to hear that entire process.
Okay. All of our employees need to go through extensive training with CBT, which is computer-based training. Okay. And then they're tested on it. And we also have secret shoppers that come in to make sure that they're going to be following the rules. We make sure that we get somebody that's right on the verge of either passing or failing. And our policy is now we card anybody that's under 40. And as I said, the POS, when you scan anything of age-restricted products, it automatically pops up needing a driver's license or a date of birth.
So if that's the case, how did they sell then?
This is new. This is
okay, this is a new.
Because this happened last year, and we put all these policies in place, and we strictly follow that.
Okay. I have a question for Jamie, but that.
Okay, any other question for Art on this? Okay, thank you, Art.
Thank you.
All right, Jamie, Councilor Starr, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Jamie, with this business, what's their history over the last 5 years? It seems like I might have remembered once or twice that they've been before us.
Actually, no, they have not. The Exhibit E that was on our attachment goes back the 5 years, and so they haven't had a fail in the last 5 years besides this one that
this was the
occurred
first
in
one?
this renewal. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Jamie, Council? Okay, I'd look for a motion to approve items 26 to 35.
Move approval. Second, Sale.
All right, motion to approve by Selberg, seconded by Sale. Any discussion, Council? All right, a vote on this, please.
Council members Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes. All right, that's passed 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 36, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at the southwest corner of East 69th Street and South Vineyard Avenue from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the LW Live Work District, number 10163-2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
Hey, Jason.
Good evening. Jason Bieber representing Planning and Development Services. This is an application by Rob Kurtenbach with Bender Commercial. The owner is First Premier Bank. It's located at the southwest corner of East 69th Street and South Vineyard Avenue, just east of the roundabout at 69th and Southeastern. It's roughly 3.49 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking to kind of make the property a little bit more marketable. They're having some difficulty selling it for commercial and retail uses, so they'd like to zone it to the live work to be able to market it as either an office or an apartment use.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, Councilor, do you have any questions for Jason on this one? Councilor Nitzert?
I just want to say that learning from experience, as I look at the live works, I'm going to consider and ask myself, would I be okay with an RA2 here, which would be a 3-story apartment potentially, because that's the highest use and presumably for many people. Interestingly, some people would find that more objectionable than the C2. I don't necessarily always think that's maybe right, but anyway, in this particular case, I'm going to support it because you have the right-of-ways on either side, and then you have like twin homes, but the right-of-way is important to me because it would mitigate the 3-story height if that's what ends up happening there. And so kind of learning from experience, got to think about, would I be okay with if a 3-story apartment ended up there? So that being said, I will move approval. Nitzert.
Okay. I have a second for that?
Second, Sale.
All right, motion approved by Councilor Nitzert, seconded by Sale. Further discussion on this item, Council? Councilor Staley?
So, Jason, have you had any neighbors or anybody voice? I haven't been contacted by anyone.
Sure.
So.
We had one neighbor kind of at the southeast corner of this map over there on Badlands Court. He had some concerns about apartments if they were going to be above 3 stories. I indicated that that wasn't allowed on this specific zoning district. He also had some concerns on traffic, 69th and Southeastern. We did take a look at that, our engineering department, and the current traffic amounts are within the range of those two arterials, but in the future there'll probably be some additional improvements to that existing roundabout. So.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Jason on this? All right, we'll take a vote then, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item.
Item 37, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located north of East Jackson Street and west of South Southeastern Avenue from the RA2 apartment residential moderate density and C2 commercial neighborhood and streetcar districts to the O office and CN conservation districts number 10197-2019 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
The applicant and owner here is Roundabout Development Partners, LLC. It's located at the northwest corner of Southeastern Avenue and East Jackson Street. This is northwest of the roundabout at 69th and Southeastern. It's about 19.5 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is the applicant is looking at developing this land into some one-story office buildings.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Jason on this one? Mr. Mayor, Councilor Starr?
Actually, I have a question for the applicant. If they're here.
Chad Javers Construction. I'm the builder on the project.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about how this is going to fit with the, Jason, can you roll it back to where the conservation district is and how yeah, that's perfect. That'll give me a little bit. Tell me how the conservation area is kind of planned out as part of this change.
So what's initially there, we're not going to go into the conservation area at all,
right?
Of course. We have our engineer, of course, working on for our drainage and going, draining into that area and out into the street as it would be. Basically what it's going to be is a string of 8 standalone office buildings is at this time. And then it'll have a kind of a road or a service road all the way around the entire property.
Around the rear?
Around the rear,
or what
too,
would be between that and the conservation area? Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions, council, for Jason? Look for a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
I would to defer to the July 9th meeting.
Okay. Motion to defer to July 9.
Second, Staley, just for discussion's sake.
Okay, and a second. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick version. I've got some more questions about the conservation area and how it fits the overall plan.
Okay. Any other discussion on that one, council, before we vote on that deferral? Councilor Nitzert?
I guess I'm a bit curious whether or not this has anything to do with the owner of the property, because I don't know what the question would be. Because we all know who the owner is, at least up here. Just saying.
Any other comments on this? All right, let's take a vote on that motion to defer to the 9th then.
Councilmember Sale?
No.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
No.
Kylie?
No.
Nitzert?
No.
Selberg?
No.
All right, that motion to defer has failed 5-2. So I'd look for another motion, please.
Move to approve.
All right, motion approved by Kylie.
Second, Selberg.
And seconded by Councilor Selberg. Any discussion on that, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
No.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-1. Item 38.
Item 38, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 818 West 6th Street from the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District to the RT2 Townhome Residential Traditional District, number 10112-2019, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
The applicant and owner here is Rodney Harrison. It's located at 818 West 6th Street. It's about 0.20 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is we're looking at correcting the zoning to match the current use of the property, which is a 2-unit converted house.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this topic here tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Jason on this one? All right, I'd look for a motion, please.
Move to approve sale. Second, Kylie.
All right, a motion approved by Councilor Sale and seconded by Kylie. Any discussion on this one, council? Okay, let's vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 39.
Item 39, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations for police grant funds, general fund grant funds, $132,000, sales tax fund grant funds, $67,000.
Good evening, Captain.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, Jeff Garden. This is a request for supplemental funds to cover grant funding. The grant funding we should have received last year, but due to circumstances beyond the city's control, we're receiving it now. And so to cover that prior to receiving it, we need these funds. It really is a revenue neutral request.
Thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this topic? Councilors, do you have questions for Captain Garden on this one? All right, look for a motion, please.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, move to approve. Kylie, seconded by Councilor Starr. Any discussion? All right, a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr? Yes. Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 40, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the naming of a facility space on public property. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 18th, 2019.
Hi, Russ.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, Sioux Falls. My name is Russ Sorensen with the Planning and Development Services Department. For your consideration this evening, it's for a first reading on an ordinance for an application that was submitted by SMG Sioux Falls on behalf of Dakota Beverage, naming a certain space within the Denny Sanford Premier Center. Dakota Beverage is one of the signature partners at the Denny Sanford Premier Center. The previous space name, Landenkugel Lodge, in 2014, that lease is expired and the space is currently unnamed. The new proposed name is Coors Light Cold Zone, which will be located on the main concourse level within the Premier Center. The Coors Light Cold Zone sits at center ice, if you will, in relation to the arena floor. Public access to this 1,188 square foot area will feature 2 bars with high top tables and chairs and railings standing to overlook the arena floor. The proposed term and the investment is a 5-year marketing partnership between the Denny Sanford Premier Center and Dakota Beverage, totaling over $337,000, and would begin July 1 and go through 2023. On May 17th, the City Naming Committee considered the naming application and unanimously recommends approval. There were no public comments received on this request. That concludes our report unless there are questions.
Thanks, Russ. First, I'll see if there's anyone from the public here to speak on this topic. All right, councilors, do you have questions for Russ on this one? Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Russ. Was the agreement before a similar type deal? Was it a 5-year deal when it was Landenkugel Lodge for the similar type of amount, or?
It was a 5-year contractual time span, and the amount went from $60,000 a year to $75,000 a year, so there was an increase.
Okay, and were they interested in keeping it at the time? Was there kind of a bid?
I don't know the particulars of that, but we could certainly ask that question of SMG.
Just curious. Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Russ? Councilor Sale?
Did the naming committee look at any other names like the Grain Belt Plaza or anything like that?
This was the application in front of them, Commissioner.
And they chose the Coors. Okay,
They
I
didn't choose
appreciate
it, it was
that.
presented to them.
Everything's for sale, Kurt, so. Any other questions for Russ on this? All right, we'll need a motion to set a date of second hearing for Tuesday, June 18 on this item.
Move to approve.
All right. Do I have a second for that?
Second, Nitzert.
A motion by Councilor Sale, seconded by Nitzert. Do we have any discussion? All right, we'll take a vote on this, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
I
Counselor
need
Starr.
to recuse myself on items 41 through 43 as I have a conflict.
Okay, you are recused.
Item 41, first reading, an ordinance approving the cable system franchise renewal agreement between Mid-Continent Communications and the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, along with authorizing the mayor to sign the same. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 11th, 2019.
Good evening, Jason.
Evening, Mayor and councilors. Thank you. This is what I discussed with y'all 2 weeks ago at the informational session. I've got a condensed version. A lot of the slides are the same, but I'll walk you through them quickly just to get those who weren't here up to speed. Basically, this is the first reading of an ordinance which approves a contract with Mid-Continent Communications to be our cable franchise provider. So the current contract that's in place was signed in 2009. It was a 10-year contract with an optional 5-year renewal. That contract is set to expire on December 31st of this year. The current franchise fee amount that was associated with this current contract was 2.5%. That's 2.5% of gross revenues collected from Mid-Continent customers for specifically their cable bill. Does not affect their internet bill or any other services, specifically cable. That franchise fee was broken up, 2% going to the general fund, 0.25% to the school district, and 0.25% to CityLink as our local PEG channel. The proposed agreement that we have on the table and agreeable by Midco is for a 10-year contract. This was one of the issues that they didn't want to extend the 5-year contract. It's really costly to negotiate these things, and Midco is a great partner with us, and they like to have a commitment like 10 years. That's the minimum they typically are signing. They like to commit to that so they can help partner with the city and build infrastructure and really get in and be a community partner. If this is approved, the effective date would be January 1st, 2020. This syncs up very well with the expiration of our current contract and makes it very clean for finance as if the fees would change or anything like that. So the proposed agreement also is being brought forward, increases the franchise fee from that 2.5% to 5%, which is the maximum allowed by the FCC, governed by the FCC, plus a 1% community grant. The community grant is a fee that is allowed for cities that have a PEG channel. PEG stands for Public, Educational, or Government TV channel. So the CityLink of Sioux Falls would qualify for that. That's what allows us to have a 1% community grant. The proposed breakdown, if you approve the franchise agreement, like I said, the 5% plus 1% community grant, we are proposing that 4.5% of that goes to the general and sales tax funds, 0.5% would go to the school district, and 1% as specifically targeted from the community grant would go to CityLink as assigned. When I got this on my desk a few months ago, one of the questions I asked is why 2.5%? What's that magic number? And as we looked into it, it was just an amount that was negotiated, I think 2 administrations ago, 10 years ago. It was a back and forth negotiation, and we landed on 2.5% for some reason. When I asked how that compared to other cities, I asked Midco for a list of their top 20 cities, and in terms of customers. And this was their list. You can see that 17 out of 20 were actually at the max of 5%. Huron and West Fargo were at 4% and 3%. Sioux Falls was the absolute lowest on the list at 2.5%. That wasn't the immediate moment in time that I said we should ramp this thing up, but this is what caused me to look into it just a little bit more. And so doing some research over the last several months with the finance department, with the city's attorney's office, is how we really came to the 5% plus 1 agreement. I'm not going to go too deep into that in my presentation. That will actually come as a resolution next week if this moves forward. Today, this ordinance is really for the first reading, setting a second date for the 10-year contract with Midco. Just a quick note, this is the only new slide that I added that wasn't there last week or 2 weeks ago. We are one of the main reasons, so after we noticed that we were at 2.5%, one of the main drivers for why we should pursue setting this thing at 5+1 is that a new bill, and you can kind of read that at the bottom, was approved in 2016 by the U.S. Senate. This, in essence, ended the abilities of states to tax for internet services. There were 7 states grandfathered in, and South Dakota was one of them. This is officially set to expire on June 30th of 2020. That amount, which is the chart on the left, the amount that the city receives from internet sales tax on internet services is approximately $1.4 million per year. That's from all the providers in town. If approved at the 5+1 cable franchise fee that we're promoting, we're looking to increase about $1.2 million, and so the net result to the city would actually result in still about a $200,000 net loss. So that was really the catalyst for why we went to the 5+1. That was the major driver of it, and so that's where we've gone since then. So with that, I do have Mr. Sean Pritchett here from the finance office and Karen Leonard, they have both spent tons and tons of time on this thing. If anybody has questions, as I sent out in a note earlier this week, this really sets up with a first reading this week with 2 resolutions that are dealing with the OVS portion of it. And then the next week we would really hone in on the franchise fee resolution portion of it with the second reading. So,
great. Thank you, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight?
Hello, I'm John Mathias from Sioux Falls. This is a timely occurrence for me as I just cut the cable and switched to satellite TV for my own home television. And it's really gotten me to thinking about cable television, CityLink in particular, the history of CityLink and the future of CityLink. And with that in mind, I have significant questions about the relative merit of increasing funding for CityLink via certain provisions of this contract to increase that amount, 75% increase that would go to CityLink, an increase of 0.25% to 1%. I start to think about the number of television households in Sioux Falls, and not being an employee at a television station, that can be difficult information to come by. But there's about 70,000 households in Sioux Falls. A percentage of that would be served by Midco and Vast Cable, so not every Sioux Falls household. And so you've got even a lower number there. And then the numbers of houses served by cable television are continually declining. So you begin to wonder at any one given time then, how many people are actually tuned into CityLink? Now, what also got me to thinking about this was that now that I've switched to Dish DirecTV for my television service at home, I can't see CityLink on my television anymore. It's only available as a cable channel. CityLink was never a broadcast channel. They never sent out a signal over a television antenna. So CityLink never existed before, say, the mid-1970s when cable service came to Sioux Falls. So what this comes down to in the final analysis is, I think this may not be a good time in the history of CityLink to invest any more in CityLink. I think it's all that it's ever going to be. And moving forward, without the ability of a majority of the public to see it on cable television, if they're interested in seeking it out, I think it needs to morph into something simpler. Perhaps podcasts would serve the need of a lot of the interview programs that are done. Television production technology is extremely expensive, and when you invest in it, you risk it becoming obsolete very quickly. So I think it's not a good time to be looking at spending more on CityLink.
Thank you, John. Anyone else here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, councilors, do you have questions on this one? Councilor Neitzer.
Yes, and this will be for Director Reisdorfer. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing this to us with this timing, because the current contract doesn't expire until the end of the year. Gives us plenty of time to talk about it, and if we had to make changes, we're not under the gun, which we have been in the past. So appreciate forward thinking. And Mr. Mathias brings up an interesting point, and so I think it's a very valid one to discuss. Define to us what CityLink would include, so like that the PEG fee, that would be the 1%. So does that just include the TV broadcast portion? Define for us what CityLink actually means, and whether it has anything to do with internet and all that.
Thank you. CityLink is actually a division of our communications department, and CityLink is a huge. They obviously operate the cable channel 16 analog and the 594 digital. They produce the council meetings, a lot of the meetings. They also produce almost 100% of the content throughout the city, whether it's Facebook, whether it's streaming, whether it's podcasts, the future of Amazon Alexa updates. This department is a studio for everything. The government channel makes it eligible for the PEG fees. And this is not, just something to just keep in mind and clarify, this is not taking a CityLink budget that was 0.25% and tripling it or anything like that. Their budget was much higher than the 0.25 before. It was just that the franchise fee portion, the 0.25% from the franchise fee dedicated to CityLink, above and beyond that came from the general fund. And so increasing this to 1% does not give CityLink a free rein to go wild on everything and triple their equipment purchases or anything like that. This gives us an opportunity to, instead of use the general fund to supplement the CityLink programming, to use this exclusively as designed by the FCC, and then free up some of that extra general fund money for anything else that you'd like to use it for.
And that's the next piece I wanted to dig into, because at face value, the current structure we have, I'll call it a quasi-PEG fee, because it's not actually a PEG fee, but we just earmark it and treat it as a PEG fee, 0.25 for us and then 0.25 for the school district. Now we're going to dedicate and say 1% will be a PEG fee, and that's going to restrict what we can do with it. But, so I guess that's where I was trying to come in, is what was justifying quadrupling the amount that was going to CityLink. And so do we have any idea how much is currently, I mean, the before and the after? I mean, do we know what the funding would look like?
I believe the CityLink budget as a whole is around $300,000 right now. The CityLink 0.25 that we currently get is worth about $90,000, and so the general fund makes up the difference of 200-some thousand. The dedicated 1% of this we project would be worth around $320,000 a year, and so the difference being about $20,000 a year out of a $300,000 budget.
Okay, and last question, and I'll defer. The school district is going from 0.25 to 0.5%, so they're doubling. And I've talking to the district, I think I know why and the good things about that. But, well, I guess you would push back on this assertion, but at face value, it looks like we're quadrupling ours and doubling theirs. So my question was going to be, why not just double both of them? But
yeah, well,
0.5 PEG fee, and then take 0.5 from the franchise fee and do the pass-through.
Certainly an option. And in fact, that's on the table.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, counselors, for Jason on this? Okay. Counselor Staley.
Actually, I've got a question for Mid-Continent.
Okay.
Can we, are they going to do something separate here, or are they here to, okay, come on up, please.
Good evening, sir.
And
My name's Pat Mastel from Mid-Continent.
thank you, Pat. You're their attorney who called this a tax last time we were together?
Yep.
The pass-through tax. So Jason Reisdorfer, I want to thank you for answering questions. We did get an email with some question and answer information on it. But playing this out for the public, we want to make sure that we're not raising any kind of fees that don't need to be raised. And I'm hearing from people that their mid-continent bill is going up anyway. I mean, it's gone up before we've come to this issue right now. So I have a bill. I don't have mid-continent myself. I use the antenna. But I wanted to talk about these price increases that we've seen here, if you can see it on the screen up there. And this is also available to the citizens, a copy of it there. So just to set the stage for fee structures, that you have been raising rates, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so this apparently, this bill has gone up almost $7.
About that, yes.
Yes. So there's something people are concerned about anyway. You know, they don't like to see any kind of rates increasing. So the next thing I wanted to ask about was, because we're talking about losing this tax revenue. So on the bill here, can you help me to understand what's going to go away when we look at these taxes and surcharges? What are we losing here? Is it all the sales tax there?
You're losing the sales tax on the internet on July 1st, 2020.
And so, like his bill, we don't really know for sure if it's that all of that isn't going away.
I can tell you all of it is not going away, only the portion on the internet. The sales tax on telephone, sales tax on cable TV stays.
And the rest of that bill is going to stay the same. I mean, nothing else is going to be changing, except for the franchise fee. So we're going to be, his bill will look, if this thing passes, instead of $2.82, it's going to go up to 6% more, right?
Well, not 6% more, because the 282 is already 2.5%.
Or
so it would go up
from
to 6%.
Right, okay. So what seems to be a little foggy is how this plays out. If we go back to the citizens and say, well, we're going to be approving this, and it's sounding like your bill is not going to change at all, then that's maybe palatable to people. But the thing that was brought up earlier by a citizen there, and that Councilor Neisert was talking about, I believe, was that my concern is, if we're going to be increasing this for CityLink, is that how are people like myself, people who have Dish TV, and I know you aren't going to answer this, but what are we going to do in our city to open that up so that everybody who turns on their TV can watch these city council meetings? And the reruns, and so I'm hesitant to put more money. And I know for you guys, you're just going to be right. You are going to pass this on to the consumer.
That is correct.
So if we're doing that, I think we would need to be able to say, well, we're going to be broadening the base of people who can receive this availability to watch the meetings and everything, and that's out of your hands.
Well, there's only 3 ways that you can get that signal to people. Cable TV, internet, over the air. And you don't have an FCC license to go over the air with CityLink. So that leaves you only 2 other alternatives: cable TV, internet.
How about partnering up with Kello or something? I mean, how do you get?
That would go over the air then.
Right.
You'd use their license, but you'd have to have a license of some kind.
So that is something we could. Have you ever heard of municipalities doing that?
I have never heard of a union.
Or how about like public TV? Because it seems like, and sometimes when I'm traveling, they will show their municipal or school issues on a public TV channel.
There's the public TV aspect of it really gets intertwined with government TV. It really does. There's very few. We have 340 cable TV franchises. We have no public TV, public access channels. None. Not in one city has exercised that. But they do lease portions of the government channel for the public at times. Churches, for example. We've seen a lot of cities that Sunday morning you can watch a church service on the government channel.
And how about being able to show the city meetings on Dish TV?
That would
Is
be a
that-
contract between Dish and the city. Midco or Vast or anybody would have nothing to do with that.
But that would be a possibility. I mean, it wouldn't hurt you, well, might hurt you a little bit if we partnered up that way too, right? For people who put a high premium on being able to get city council information or city information.
The biggest thing that we hear though is having it available on the internet. I mean, that's, to be honest with you, that's what I hear the most. People watch it on YouTube. That's where they're watching.
Counselor Nizer, did you have a question for Pat?
Yeah, and this is slightly out of your wheelhouse, but I'm going to keep going down the track she is. So the thing I think the differentiator is with the franchise, you want a franchise from us. You're the grantee and we're the grantor, I guess.
Correct.
And get my legal terms right. So in doing that, we have the right to say, you will provide a PEG channel. You will carry our PEG channel, not provide, you will provide us a channel to put it on.
Correct.
As part of that deal. Whereas with like Dish and those other ones, they're not getting a franchise from us, so we really have no stick to make them carry the channel.
Correct.
Whereas with you, we can say you're gonna, and the contract does stipulate that there's one school channel and there's one city channel. So that, and this might be, I guess, I'll stick to the other one for Vast. If we have a question on that, I'll leave that one alone.
Counselor Brecky.
Referring to your statement that you have 340 franchise agreements. I was looking at the comparables, and to me, as far as population goes, the two most comparable comparables would be West Fargo and Sioux Falls. And West Fargo is at 3%, and Sioux Falls was at 2.5. You know, is it common, you know, for cities that are more our size to not try to take the full 5% in your history with it?
Most of our cities that have a franchise have 5%. Probably 80, and I'm just guessing at these numbers now. My gut tells me that there's about 80% of our franchise entities, because in Minnesota you can have a township with a franchise. About 80% of those have a franchise fee. And of those 80%, I'd say at least 80%, maybe closer to 90% have the 5% franchise fee.
And then last week you mentioned, you know, and because the question came up, you know, why, or I'm raising the question now, why the city of Sioux Falls didn't. You and I visited afterwards, and you've done the last 3 contracts, did you say? That you've done the last 3 contract agreements with the city of Sioux Falls? And last week you met, or last meeting you mentioned that it was a policy of the city of Sioux Falls to not have the 5%.
At that point in time, yes.
And you and I visited, and that was my recollection as well, having negotiated the first 2 franchise agreements, that it was the city's policy to do it through volume, that we could make up enough in volume if we, you know, that we didn't need to have the full 5%. And it was, you know, do you recall it like that in the ones that you did?
Yeah, and yes, I recall that, and it makes sense because back when cable TV started, it was a product that was ramping up, and more people were using it, wanted it, had it. Now there's so many other alternatives with the internet, with, you know, the satellite providers, and people that just don't even have, you know, TV and don't care to have TV. So there's so many other alternatives that the product count is actually decreasing. Who knows where it's going to be in 5 years? There's some studies out there that say that the decrease is stabilizing. People are realizing that it's costing more to have all these other services than it does to have just your basic cable TV.
And then I guess just one final question, and I believe we kind of agreed on this, that it was a conscious decision. It wasn't like an accident that we weren't at 5%, that the city of Sioux Falls actually, you know, as a matter of policy, was deciding not to take the full 5%.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Kiley.
Thank you. And if you would remain there for a moment, I'm looking at the revenue projections. The 1.4 million projections of internet sales revenue loss. as of June of next year versus the 1.2 million projected revenue increase from this proposed increase that we're discussing this evening. What percentage of your customers, I don't want to make an assumption, so I'll just ask you, what percentage of your customers are just cable only versus cable and internet?
Cable only would be, I don't have that number, but it would be very, very, very low. We have very few customers that have just cable TV. Most of them have cable and internet.
Okay, so when you discuss this, it would be a pass-through to the customer. If our revenues are decreasing, wouldn't the pass-through to your customer decrease as well too, since they're losing the tax on internet?
The ones that have both services, yes. If you were paying, let's say, an average cable customer of $75 a month maybe, and an average internet customer of $75 a month, if that's what you had, it would be pretty close to a wash.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Certainly.
All right. Any other questions for Pat while we have him up here? All right, thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. Any further questions for Jason on this, or we'll have a chance to talk about it more next week as we set second date, but Councilor Staley?
Well, just a statement that I want to make. I remember when the governor, the legislature gave us a property tax rebate. I don't know if people were even aware of this, but they cut back on our property taxes. It was kind of a neat thing. But our school district chose not to give that, pass that on to the citizens. And there was a petition drive started to try to put this to a public vote. It did not succeed. But to me, I mean, I thought that was a wonderful gesture on the part of the legislature. So now, and maybe Jason, Mr. Reisdorfer, if you could come up for one more question. But now we're going to be cutting back on taxes. I mean, a lot of people get excited about that when you cut back on taxes, even if it's a small amount. So I'm a little hesitant to say, well, we're losing this taxation, so let's tack it on a different kind of fee to make up for it. There's a refreshing sense that if we can say we don't have as much, let's cut back and be a little more frugal with what we're taking in. I think that a lot of people find that resonates with them. But if you could explain to the public, why did they take that tax off?
Great question. I think that it was wrapped up, from my research, it's been wrapped up for a couple of decades now, and it had a lot to do with the Safety of Information Act and internet sales tax in general. And so this, I'm not going to pretend to know how federal government works, but these things get added onto bills and added onto bills and added onto bills, and the final straw was on this. And our local Yvonne Taylor, who works for who is a
Municipal League.
Yeah, she works for the Municipal League. She actually said that our Senator John Thune had a piece of this actual bill. But
so it was to help people. I mean, it was. I mean, they weren't just saying let's just get rid of a tax. That just doesn't happen.
I think it was a policy debate on whether or not internet service is a taxable item, because it's a service and it's not a product or a good.
Have we heard from the state, because they're getting 4.5% of this? They're going to be losing. See, that they're not going to be recouping this, are they?
Yeah, I think
what are they saying about this?
I think they're worried about it, and a huge article in the Municipal League showed the projected losses of revenue, and it's substantial. We're projecting conservatively 1.4 million per year in internet. They are actually projecting for us between 2.5 and 3.5, roughly, of a loss. So our calculations are slightly different, but this is across the board. Every county, every city in the state is facing a substantial loss from this. That's exactly why we looked at this for a rate increase. This has been an option to do every other year for the last 10 years, and it hasn't been done, and that's why we got to this point.
Well, and the last thing, I think, again, this would resonate with the citizens. If we were to say we are going to be recouping this, and we're going to put every penny of it into the streets, but we're putting some of it into your department, the CityLink department. And so that's, again, where it just gets a little bit more questionable, because we're already getting a service, and I understand you're saying you're already getting some money from the budget, but anytime we're raising money for something, I think it's, going forward, I'm hearing loud and clear, people want more money put into streets, more money.
Completely understand, completely agree. Just to touch 1 second on your issues on broadcast. It's actually part of our plan moving forward from CityLink to provide more options. One of the internet options, if you have a Roku device, if you have an Apple TV, if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, we can create CityLink apps for all of those devices. And so it's 100% on our radar to make this as accessible as possible. We've actually, my IT director has been looking through his team on what it would actually cost to stand up an antenna and broadcast it over the air. It's substantial. And so I don't think we're there, but we're certainly looking to expand as much of the service as possible.
Councilor Brecky.
Did you consider staggering it as a, because it's a 10-year contract? Did you consider staggering it over a period of years instead of just doing the dramatic change?
Yes, the first proposal that I made, that was my appetite right from the start. Can we step this up? There was discussion internally that citizens would maybe get fatigued seeing constant reminders of an increase year after year after year. And so it was basically let's rip the Band-Aid off once. If there's people on the edge of cutting cable, we know that's a factor. But this is Midco's business and their decision whether or not they pass this through. They've said that they are choosing to. They wouldn't have to if they didn't want to. It's allowed by law. It's expected. I mean, we could understand it, but this is up to Midco to decide how they're going to retain their customers. And so we just thought that this was the best play. We have a model. We have lots of models on going up partway, not adding the capital grant fee, stepping it up every other year. We've run a lot of models, and we just decided on this one.
What, is the loss of the cable customers? Do you have any kind of numbers about that? What kind of trend are you seeing in the loss of the cable TV users?
It's declining, and the chart that I showed last week showed the last 3 years of our revenue from the franchise fee as declining, which was the second warning sign of this. I think nationally, there's different rates all over the country, as the council from Midco said. Some places are leveling off, some places are slightly increasing, a lot of them are declining by a lot. If I had to guess at the number of actual people, it's probably in the neighborhood of 5% per year are starting to cut for our local customers. That's a total guess.
Thank you.
Councilor Neitzer.
A couple of thoughts. So yeah, that plays into the thought process too, is how much of the cord cutting and changing from cable TV to internet is baked in the cake already. And then I kind of look at those trends, and yeah, it was going down, but it wasn't alarmingly so. So how much is that going to trend? As an example, and I don't know if I'm the outlier talking to Midco, I don't know that I am. I pay $70 for my internet piece and $20 for my TV piece because I have a very small local channels or whatever. And so if this went through, in my particular case, I'd probably gain a couple bucks a month just in the way it works out. But somebody with a different flip would make a different deal. I did consider, and I think it's definitely something that, because I thought to myself, okay, so if we were raising these rates, would people say to me, use it on CityLink Studios or use it to fix the roads? Well, easy, fix the roads. But as I thought about it, I thought, there ought to be, philosophically, there should probably be a nexus between who we're taking the money from and what we're using it for, and it just doesn't really make sense to me that I would impose a higher franchise fee and earmark it to roads, because I don't, a cable user, that has nothing necessarily to do with roads. So what this comes down to, I think we got to think about, is really the philosophical discussion about, and I do believe the numbers because I've looked at some of the numbers, and I know there's some proprietary stuff behind it, but I think the numbers do add up. We're essentially going to lose $1 million, and do we want to recoup that through sales tax growth or some other mechanism, or do we want to do something to make it whole? And that's really what it comes down to, and based on that, we select our number. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I'd look for us to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 11 on this item.
So moved. Okay. Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Councilor Kiley and seconded by Sale. Further discussion on this item before we move on, Council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Next item, please.
Item 42, a resolution granting the consent of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota to the transfer of control of the Open Video System License Agreement and Open Video System of Clarity Telecom LLC.
Thank you. This is a resolution. The Cliff Note version is this is a company, Clarity Telecom was the parent company of VAST. They are partnering with a company called Oak Hill Capital, forming a new company called Python Intermediate. This is a resolution that transfers authority as part of the merger. So basically saying, as they transfer companies, the same rules are going to be in effect. Deep into the bullets of this, the agreement is saying that they agree to maintain all the previous agreements. So this is up for a resolution tonight.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Anyone here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Jason on it? Councilor Steele?
Just to clarify for the public that this contract that is going to be piggybacking on this second reading that we're going to have it's kind of an open-ended thing.
This exact resolution basically cleans up the current contract we already have one with VAST. This is basically transferring the ownership of the title. The next resolution is for VAST to basically mirror.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Look for a motion on this item, please.
Move approval.
Second, Sale.
All right. Motion approved by Selberg and seconded by Sale. Any other discussion, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmembers Sale,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Item 43.
Item 43, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota authorizing the mayor to execute an open video system license agreement with Clarity Telecom LLC doing business as VAST Broadband.
So this is what you were asking about, Counselor. This is actually the 10-year agreement with VAST, basically. And as an OVS provider, you aren't afforded the negotiation piece that a cable franchise is. A cable franchise is held to a much higher standard. They're forced to get to a certain percentage of the neighborhoods and provide service. They're forced to maintain standards. And so as an OVS, you're not necessarily held to those same standards. And so the contract basically adopts whatever fees and whatever structure the main cable franchise adopts. So this is basically the 10-year agreement to extend the license with VAST. It's baked into their contract what the rate would be based on what Midco's rate would be.
Got it. Thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this topic here? All right, councilors, do you have questions for Jason on this one? Councilor Steele?
So in essence, they're kind of hopping on for the ride, right? I mean, they're just, we got it happening, they're just kind of coming along. Are there any other companies that would be similar to this? Small companies that could, are they the only two games in town besides that dish thing? We got the dish, we got the antenna, the satellite antenna, and then this cable thing.
Right now, they're the only ones in town. I think there's lots of OVS providers throughout the country. They can choose to come here. The advantage that OVS has is they can, quote, cherry pick what neighborhoods to put service in, and so a lot of times they target high-density locations like apartment complexes where there's very low infrastructure build-out and high potential for customer revenue. So that, again, is why they have less advantages of the cable company.
I would be very interested to know, and I can make the calls, you can do it. I would just want to reach out to Kello, KSFY, some of these places and say, how much would it cost for us to get some kind of a stream? What do you call that? What do you call the channel thing that, like the KSFY has the Me TV, and I mean, what would that cost? We don't really know, do we? Or public TV, they've got like, I got like 6 public TV channels coming in. One of them's classical music, the other one's talk, some kind of a talk thing over the TV. So,
If you wanted to do this, I would be an advocate with you on this, and I'd be happy to go to the table and ask them and have the discussion, do the research, and work the numbers. I don't think that necessarily applies to this agreement, but it's certainly on the table for future considerations.
Any other questions for Jason on this? All right, I'd look for a motion on it.
Move to approve sale.
Second, Kylie?
All right, motion approved by Counselor Sale and seconded by Kylie. Further discussion here, Council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Staley?
yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Elberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. Counselor Sale, will you grab Counselor Starr and pull him back in? And once he is back, we will move on with item 44.
Item 44, a resolution authorizing the City of Sioux Falls to give certain surplus equipment to Southeast Technical Institute.
One more for me here. This is for 4 pieces of equipment, blade servers. If you're into the tech sort of thing, the models listed here. This is basically 4 pieces of equipment that have an end of life of about 5 years. We use them for about 8 years, and so we've now replaced them. And this, while not useful to us, would be very useful to Southeast, STI. And we've got a great relationship with them. We've got a good partner program, apprenticeship program, internship. We work as much as we can with them. This agreement is gifting those blades to them for their use.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public care to speak on this topic tonight? All right, Council, you have any questions for Jason on this one? Counselor Staley?
So Jason, what did the new ones cost to replace these?
I'm not sure. This is this was purchased predates me. I don't have the estimate.
So you have no idea what one cost? Are they worth 50,000? Are they worth 5,000? Are they worth 200?
I can get you
The
that.
the value that we're giving to.
The value of this
Are the ones we're giving away worthless?
to us, they're worthless.
But I mean, out in the open market, would they be worthless?
John comes up.
Come on up, John.
John Clemmy, IT manager. The surplus process that we use, we run through the life of the technology and then we dispose of it. There is virtually no value. We've in the past tried to sell these at the city auction, but they bring pennies on the dollar, and it's very time consuming for our team to go through and get them cleaned and prepped and ready for sale. So there is virtually no value.
Do you know what the new ones cost?
I do not, but I can get that information to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Counselor Neitzer?
Yeah, I did take a look at this, and I think they're about 8 years old, something like that, which is, and looking at the specs, they're quite outdated. And I did look them up, and I think you could maybe find a used one for $200-300 on the internet, you know, here and there.
Sure.
Potential. At least that was what it was for sale for. So it wasn't hugely substantial.
Yeah, Southeast Tech, as I understand it, they like to use them for their labs, for their students to take apart and put that together and see if they can get them operational again.
Counselor Brecky, did you have a?
That was my question, is
Got it.
how they were useful to SDI, and you answered it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Counselor Kiley.
Thank you. Yeah, rather than trying to sell them at pennies on the dollar, Southeast Tech provides a very valuable service to the city of Sioux Falls, especially in the area of workforce development, and for the very reason, you know, in this helping them to learn their trades. So I'm all in favor of this resolution.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for bringing
Appreciate
it
your
forward.
support.
I look for a motion on it, or do you have one more comment, Counselor
If I
Staley?
just may say, Counselor Neitzer, I just asked him what he thinks they would be new, and he says possibly 50,000 apiece. So we'll be, just so the public, just because they're the ones paying for this, so thank you.
But I'll get that answer to you. Thank you.
Okay, I'd look for a motion on this now, please.
Move to approve.
All right, motion approved by Kylie. Do I have a second?
Second, Nitzert.
Seconded by Nitzert. Any other discussion? All right, a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Item 45, a resolution vacating the old Yankton Circle right-of-way abutting the below-described properties and as shown on Exhibit A.
Hey, Kurt.
Good evening, Kurt Peppel, Public Works Engineering. The right-of-way in question is near 57th and Western, just southwest of the intersection. Sayer Associates and Woods Fuller submitted the right-of-way vacation petition pursuant to South Dakota law and complies with the street vacation policy of the city. Neighborhood meeting was held on April 18th to discuss the right-of-way vacation. About approximately 10 people attended that meeting, and we were not aware of any concerns out of that meeting. If the vacation is approved, an easement will not be reserved for public and private utilities. As part of the redevelopment plan, a private road was established for the church that is just off of 57th there, so they will continue to have access. Engineering does not have any concerns with the proposed right-of-way vacation.
Thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight? Councilors, do you have any questions for Kurt or engineering on this? For a motion on it?
Move approval.
Okay, move to approve by Selberg.
Second, Sale.
Seconded by Sale. Discussion, council? All right, we'll vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 46.
Item 46, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving diagonal parking on Main Avenue.
This angled parking is proposed next to the Cascades project, which is currently being constructed downtown at 2nd and Main, between Main and Phillips. The request on behalf of Lloyd Companies and the Cascades project to create angled parking on the east side of Main Avenue. And so the parking would be highlighted in the black hatched area on the east side of Main between 2nd and 3rd. This consideration is being brought forward as part of the development agreement with Lloyd Companies. This is just a map that kind of outlines a few areas downtown, what I'd call towards the north end of downtown. The blue line towards the north end is what we are considering tonight, and the yellow lines are already approved diagonal parking in this end of downtown. This is just, sorry, I had to turn the picture just so it fit on the page. To my left would be north. The Cascades project would be towards the top of the page. This just kind of shows the diagonal parking which is being proposed. And from a street functionality standpoint, engineering does not have any concerns and recommends approval.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this topic tonight? Good evening.
Mayor, Council, my name is Steve Hadorf. You'll have to excuse my voice. I've been at 725 North Main for 31 years. I visited with Keith Hoftizer about almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, about when they had the diagonal parking up by the bakery before that went out. He was going to keep me informed when this meeting was going to happen or before this, so we would go to a committee. And because I've insisted that we need to have a turning lane all the way up North Main. If you look at the diagram, how many parking spaces are you going to have there, sir? You know?
The angled parking would result in 16 parking places along just the Cascade, which is the white hatched area.
My main concern again is we need a parking or a turning lane traveling north, because there's a number of issues. There's a public safety issue when police and sheriffs and for the fire department, I headed up the penitentiary, they need that emergency lane. If you travel farther south, there's a turning lane all the way from 6th Street up to McClelland Avenue. So the turning lanes to the west all the way along. Between 5th Street to 4th Street, there are no driveways that you can turn west into. From 4th to 3rd, by the city parking lot, there are no driveways to turn west into. From 3rd to 2nd, there are 3 driveways that you can turn west into. That's still why we need a turning lane traveling north. It's a commercial area. I cannot get in and out of my parking lot, or I can, but it takes a lot of effort to turn left into the parking lot. When the police are going into their impound lot, they would park in the turning lane before, but now they're in one lane or the other, blocking traffic before they go into their impound lot. Another question, where are the delivery trucks going to drop off their merchandise for the retail over on Phillips Avenue for those retail stores going in? Do we know where that is going to be? Or is that going to be on Main Street? There should be no residential parking or residents of the Cascades because they have 2 floors of underground parking, so we shouldn't have to be concerned about them parking on the street. So again, it's a public safety issue. We don't need those 25 spots or approximately whatever it was. We still need a turning lane going up the hill. Any questions?
We can take questions, sir, but if your public input's done, we'll turn it back over. Thank you for your input. Anyone else here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, councilors, do you have questions for engineering on this? Councilor Neitzer?
Are these spots going to be metered and part of the parking enterprise then? Do we know that?
I guess I can't answer that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Councilor Staley?
So I don't know if this is the right time. I'm going to be making a motion to defer this. Because personally, I would like to, this is the first I've heard of anybody having concerns. I'd like to physically be able to go out and look at, I can see another business owner out there. I'd like to be able to go on site and see what some of their concerns are. So is this the time that I make a motion?
It's time to ask any more questions of Kurt, and then we'll entertain that deferment, and I'll ask if there's any questions of Kurt specifically yet. Councilor Starr?
Thank you. Kurt, tell me how this matches up with the TIF proposal that we did. Is this kind of a follow-through of, the next step in what we approved as part of the TIF for this property?
Yeah, as part of the development agreement, and I'll just read it's 2.02. The developer intends to request support for the creation of proposed angled parking along Main Avenue, Phillips Avenue, and 2nd Street. And, as you can see by the lines, the Phillips Avenue piece and the 2nd Street piece was previously done by other resolutions. And so this would just be requesting for that blue piece along Main Avenue. Thank you.
Other questions for Kurt? Councilor Neitzer?
Actually, I have a question for Lloyd Companies that I think is here too.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Luke Justin with Lloyd Companies.
Thank you. What do you see as a benefit for you in terms of the diagonal parking? How do you intend to use it? Any thoughts on how it's going to tie into the project?
Yeah, just to give you some background, when we initially proposed this project, we proposed diagonal parking to be consistent with the core of downtown. Main Avenue is seeing a road diet in the core of downtown, and this is part of downtown as uptown continues to develop into a more attractive area for both retail and residential. The need for parking will exist. it's already going to be seen next week when the Levitt Shell opens, and additional parking will be needed. We're also adding 20,000 square feet of retail space to that site and over 200 apartment units. I want to clarify to a comment made earlier, there's only one level of underground parking. Due to the soil conditions, 2 levels isn't feasible on this site. But that's a few of the reasons why we're proposing the diagonal parking along Main Avenue.
And do you know who's going to manage that parking? If it's gonna, if
they're public parking spaces, I don't believe they will be metered just until the demand's there. Other areas on that portion of Main Avenue are not metered.
so it's just, okay, so it'll be part of our asset essentially, but they may just have like 2-hour max signs, or it's just operationally whatever we decide to do.
Yeah, it'll be public parking.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks, Luke.
Other questions?
Councilor Steele, you want to put a motion on the floor?
Yes, and before I do that, I'm just going to ask if this passes, that the people involved would send their contact information so that, and Kurt, it'd be wonderful if we could meet with you out there as well, just to kind of look at it so that we hear their concerns and make sure it all works. And I don't think this is like times, if I defer it for 2 weeks, it's not going to.
I mean, we are under construction.
Life or death.
We anticipate opening the project, the first phase of the Cascade, July 1st. So.
Okay. So anyway, I'm going to make a motion to defer this to Tuesday, June 18th.
Second.
All right, a motion to defer this to Tuesday, June 18 by Councilor Seeley, seconded by Councilor Starr. For obvious reasons, as Councilor Staley stated. Any other discussion on that?
And I could have put it next week, but just to give people, I know people are traveling, and so that gives us a little time to kind of come out and look at it, and then we can feel real secure about what we're going to do.
Any other discussion on that, Council? Councilor Kiley?
I just want to clarify again, this is the portion of the project that the developer, the contractor, has agreed to perform to improve public right-of-way? Kurt, can you address that?
Yeah, they are addressing the street improvements and also the landscaping that would go along with the bump outs and such.
Okay, so, and they are the ones that are performing that work?
Yep, this is all being completed by Lloyd's.
Thank you.
Councilor Starr?
Yeah, I would. I'm okay with the deferral, but at the same time, I mean, this is work that's being paid for by the public as part of the TIF. It's not the developer paying for it. It's part of the overall TIF that we did as part of this. So, I mean, it's a little bit semantics of who's paying, but it comes down to the taxpayers are paying for this as part of, and this taxpayers of the school district and the county. So, given it a couple of weeks, this isn't a new project, and why we waited till now and didn't bring this forward, I guess, is not the concern of the people that are in the neighborhood. So.
All right, Councilor Neitzer?
Well, maybe to make a call on this, it would help me if could we have Heath Hofteser speak to the diagonal versus leaving it as is with the new anticipated traffic flow and what I guess, kind of what the thoughts would be of pros and cons of both directions.
Heath Hofteser, Principal Traffic Engineer for the City of Sioux Falls. It's with the bump outs that are occurring for the pedestrian, for kind of the traffic calming and for pedestrian movements and the landscaping that's occurring. If we didn't have the diagonal parking, there would be about 8 parallel spots that are instead being replaced by 16 diagonal spots in this location. As far as number of parking, the traffic volumes on Main Avenue in this location for the last 5 years have fluctuated between 2,700 and 3,100 vehicles. It's the point where on a typical roadway where you'd have to have or where you'd want to see a third lane for operations would be once you start getting over 6,000 if you were trying to achieve level service C, and 8,000 if you're looking for if you're willing to go down to a level of service D on your roadway. In this particular location, it's with the 3,000 vehicles that are there. With a 2-lane facility, we would operate at a level of C or better. The issue you run into is it's with a 2-lane roadway, you have to wait for people that are backing out, or if someone's turning into a driveway or something like that, the cars that would be on Main Avenue would have to potentially stop for the vehicles that are making movements into or out of driveways or into the parking locations. And this would be similar to, we see that if you drive Phillips Avenue right now through the diagonal parking area, a lot of times having to stop for someone that's backing out or parking, so.
And I would just add that in a downtown, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing to force people to do traffic calming rather than letting them have free rein to zip through, so.
Councilor Selberg.
I don't think a deferment's a bad idea. I might make a substitute motion to defer it for a week. I don't know that we need two, whenever that's appropriate.
Okay. Do you want to make that? A substitute motion to defer to the 11th instead of the 18th?
Yes, I'd make a motion for that.
Okay, and that's seconded by Councilor Brecky. So that's the substitute motion that's on the floor. Tom, you got to keep me in the right lane to make sure I do all this right here. And you want to explain the rationale for that?
I think a week's plenty of time to go take a look at this and make a judgment from there if you need any more information.
Okay. Councilor Kiley?
Just one last thing, and Heath, you or Kurt, you could probably address this, but we're actually approving the release of a permanent utility easement here. The angled parking, that was already decided upon when we discussed this project originally. Was it not?
I'm not following you on the
Oh, I mean, we're not, this isn't a resolution to allow angled parking. It's a resolution for, oh, excuse me, I went down on the next list. But my second thought, I was on item 47, we're on 46. But if we don't follow through with what our original, with the thought behind the original project, then just going off of what Councilor Starr had stated, then the taxpayer is really paying even more because now they're not going to get what was originally proposed. And so we've had this discussion. I think unless it would create extreme hardship, a delay of a week, I could agree with a deferment of a week. But I would like to hear from the Lloyd companies on that.
We would be comfortable with a week. Given the weather, we should be able to still open on target with 1 week.
Given the weather, that's a big given.
Councilor Staley?
My only concern with the 2 weeks is that and actually as we had nice Heath up here, Heath, you're such a nice person, helpful. I would like Heath to come with on our little tour. So I'm going to have to find a time to get Kurt, Heath, maybe some council members and these business owners together to look over the situation. So I was just trying to make it as accessible as possible. That's why I was asking for the 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, let's we'll take a vote on the amended amendment, which is to defer this to next week, Tuesday, June 11. That was on the floor by Councilor Selberg, seconded by Councilor Brecky. So let's take a vote on that first.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
No?
Brecky?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Neitzer?
No.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, so that passes 5-2. So we will defer that till next week. Next item, please. We had public input on that topic already, sir. We had public input. You can speak next week, though, because we're going to be deferring. And if you want to reach out to, I guess, Councilor Staley, we'll make sure you get on the tour to have your voice heard on it. You bet. Thank you. Item 47.
Item 47, a resolution approving the release of part of a permanent utility easement located in Lot 1 of Tract F in the Pine subdivision in government lots 2 and 3, Section 9, Tract 100 North, Range 50 West, Lincoln County, South Dakota.
This is an easement release on a property in the Pine subdivision near 57th Street and I-229 just to the northwest of there. The Sayer Associates on behalf of the property owner has requested the easement be released. No facilities are located within the area to be released, which is the yellow area compared to some of the other easements that still remain out there. A release of the easement will aid in the development of the parcel. City Engineer's Office recommends approval.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Anyone from the public here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, councilors, do you have questions for Kurt on this one?
Hey, I would love to make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'd love to accept it.
Second, Brecky.
All right. Motion by Councilor Kiley on this and seconded by Councilor Brecky. Is there any discussion on it, council? All right, we'll take a vote, please.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We're on item 48.
Item 48, a resolution amending the 2019-2023 capital program. Parks and Recreation, $50,000. Public Works Fleet, $283,000. Police, $42,000 and $25,000.
Good evening, Sean.
Good evening, Sean Pritchard with Finance. So this amends the 2019 through 2023 capital program. There's 4 items listed here. The first one is for $50,000 for Parks and Recreation. So this amends it for the Falls Park Master Plan that Director Kearney presented to you on at the informational meeting last week. This does not involve an additional appropriation. This is a reallocation from existing funding. This just amends the plan. The second item is for fleet. It actually is a result of a grant that we received from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. It was a grant related to EAB. It will be used in conjunction with $700,000 we already have programmed in the capital improvement program for fleet for the acquisition of a grinder for EAB trees that will be utilized out at the Sioux Falls Regional Landfill. And finally, the last 2 items are related to 2 grants that were received from police. One is for radios, the other is for a forensic analyzer, and those were 2 new appropriations. They were actually covered in item number 39.
All right, thank you, Sean. Anyone from the public here to speak on any of those items? Councilor, you got any questions for Sean on it? Councilor Starr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Pritchard, did we lose any equipment in the spring flooding?
I believe that there had been some equipment lost for Parks and Rec. I can't speak directly to what pieces of equipment were lost, but they're still accounting for, I'd have to look at the full accounting of
Is this replacing part of that, or?
No, this has been something that was announced, and I think it was even in the Argus Leader. This is related to EAB. This is a grinder for the landfill.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions for Sean on this one? I'd look for a motion on it, please.
Move to approve, Starr.
Second.
All right, motion approved by Starr and seconded by Kiley on this. Any other discussion, council? We'll take a vote.
Councilmember Sale?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Brecky?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 49.
Item 49, Audit Report 18-02, Great Plains Zoo and Delbridge Museum.
That's it? All right, do we need to take action on that? All right, item 50.
Item 50, Notice of Transfer of Appropriations on the memorandum dated May 30th, 2019.
All right, no action on that either. Any new business, council?
Move to adjourn, Starr.
Second, Brecky.
All right, motion adjourned by Councilor Starr and seconded by Brecky. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Motion is carried. The meeting is adjourned.